Think your mic's muted, brother.
Yeah, can't hear you, Adam.
Think your mic's muted, brother.
Yeah, can't hear you, Adam.
Okay. I'm trying. Was that better now? Are we good?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, gotcha.
Holy cow. Anyway, we are joined by Mark, Jason, and McHenry tonight. We're going to talk a little baseball. I have no idea. I tried to fix this problem by moving my whole setup around. Apparently, I need to call Comcast and get this fixed because I have no idea. That introduction was absolutely horrendous.
Hey, we all make mistakes.
How's everyone doing? How we all doing tonight, guys? We doing all right?
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, outstanding. All right. Deep breath. We got this now.
I just don't understand. Like, every time I try to get a good show going, it just starts out with a boom, not a bang. Oh, man. So, Mark, how are you, man? How you doing? I didn't really get a good introduction, obviously.
I'm doing good. Appreciate you having me. Getting over a little bit of a sickness. Had an awful cough. I gave it to my wife, so I'm a great husband for that. And looking forward to talking a little bit of ball. Had some really good conversations over the last couple of weeks, especially with the World Series ending, some of the awards that have been going around. There's a lot of good stuff that's going on in baseball, and I love how they've kind of lengthened things out. They don't do the awards all at once. They kind of push things. Now we have the GM meetings. Then right after that, we're going to have the winter meetings and just a lot of stuff happening. So I like what MLB's done and baseball's done, that they've kind of made it a year-round thing to pay attention to.
See, they wanted to shorten the game, and now they're lengthening the awards. So
there you go.
Are you gonna put a pitch count clock on that?
I'm sure they would love to time it or take control of it in some manner. That's what they seem to love to do, is have control.
Speaking of the World Series, Mike, what did everyone think of the World Series? I know everyone talked about the run differential and how the Diamondbacks had 6 more wins than us. I don't know. I don't feel the Pirates were ready for that stage at all. That's just my opinion. But everyone compared it like, oh, they only had 6 more wins, but it was a long way off.
Well, just like when I was with the Indians in '97, man, we didn't have that great of a record, but it's whoever got hot at the right time, and that's what carries you through. And especially, Texas was pretty darn good the whole year. They're in a tough division, but it was good. Living in Texas for the last 3 years, it was nice to see the Rangers finally get their championship, and ownership spent some money. But on the D-back side, never in a million years did I think they would be in there. But again, they got hot at the right time. They played some good ball. And the thing that stuck out most to me in the World Series and just in the postseason is how in the world do the Rangers go 11-0 on the road? That's just almost impossible.
Hey, take it away, Jason. I'll go last.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. That's something we haven't seen in a long time from any team, going 11-0 on the road in a postseason. And I mean, you talk about getting hot, and all I can say is I hope Andrew Friedman and Stan Kasten in Los Angeles were puking in a Dodger blue bucket when they saw what Corey Seager was doing. Because Corey Seager, again, and I did not know this, guys, that Corey Seager, I think, is second behind Reggie Jackson in all-time career postseason home runs. You have Reggie Jackson, Corey Seager, and then the third guy up there, I just can't remember who it is now. But I mean, Seager was just lights out clutch again for another team in the postseason. He deserved to win.
Do you freeze up? So
I think Jay goes.
I think the most encouraging thing for me.
I thought it was a lopsided.
There you go. You're back, Jason. Finish that thought.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just
Jay,
going to say, I thought it was a lopsided.
Buddy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought it was a lopsided series for the most part.
He's got that stone look in his eye, doesn't
Get
he?
some power.
Yeah,
Freeze
Arizona
going
made a
on.
series out of it.
Jay, you're freezing bad, buddy. Anyway,
Yeah.
Hey,
Mike, go ahead.
I'll round it out. I thought it was a really one of those series that has to be encouraging. When you just look at the playoff format in general, I'm with you, Mark. The hottest team's going to win, and I think that lull that Atlanta and Baltimore and some of the teams that even LA had to wait around, I think it hurt them. I think they're going to have to maybe try to find a way to balance that out because it does hurt the teams that have the best years. But I think it's going to be encouraging to every small market team. I mean, you look at the teams that made the playoffs in general. I mean, you have, let's see, Baltimore, 29th payroll overall, Tampa Bay, Cleveland was right there, but you had Miami. You had a lot of teams, then Arizona being 21st. You had a lot of teams that didn't spend a gazillion dollars to make their team that were in the playoffs, that got deep in the playoffs. That's really encouraging for baseball. But at the same time, I loved what Texas did. The money they spent in the offseason really didn't come to show. I mean, they had guys step up all year. Seager wasn't healthy all year. Guys stepped up and did work. Every time a guy went down, someone stepped up in a great way in Texas, and they didn't have their best pitcher. Max Scherzer wasn't himself. They had a lot of hiccups, and they were able to overcome it, lose the division, and then come back and win the World Series in their first. I think it speaks volumes that guys like Bochy that have been there, that manage, a postseason a little bit differently. Maybe it's just a little bit old school, more traditional. They seem to have a knack for what they do. And I loved it. It was kind of a mix of old school, new school. Still the home run for me led the way. Slugging seemed to be the difference. I think in 87% of the games in the postseason. So it was fun. It was different. And I think it was good for baseball. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And I think Texas' best baseball is ahead of them.
I didn't understand why the ratings were so low. I thought this was a really good matchup on paper. But I'm a Corey Seager fan, but every time I watched him, he struck out. So Arizona fans probably wishing I watched the whole damn thing. But every time I watch Corey Seager, he strikes out, and I'm like, this guy is so good, and he's my favorite shortstop. But every time I watch him, he just strikes out. And then he finally got a base hit on the one, and then he struck out on the next at bat. but I mean, Corey Seager was the first player in Major League Baseball to win the MVP on both sides of the leagues. And was that the solid cement in the Cooperstown?
Oh, boy, that's a really good question. I think the answer to that remains to be seen. The reason I say that, guys, is because Corey Seager lost the better parts of 2 seasons of his career due to injuries in Los Angeles. The first time he had Tommy John surgery, first time he had hip surgery, which knocked him out most of the year. Second time he had Tommy John surgery. So I still say that he has to kind of make up for those 2 injury-filled seasons. Right now, the resume's been solid. The All-Star appearances, the 2 World Series MVPs, the 2 World Series championships. So far, the resume is solid, but I still think I would like to see a lot more out of him, especially defensively. Now, he's solid defensively. On a scale of 1 to 10, he's about a 7, maybe an 8. But still, I mean, if he keeps going the trajectory he's going, if he can stay fairly healthy, he's got a ticket on his way to Cooperstown if he keeps going the route he's going.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think he had just had an amazing postseason. Obviously, a very, very good ball player. Last year, when and living in Texas, we got to go see the new ballpark, and is
it amazing? By the way, I haven't gotten to see it yet.
It is amazing. I've been at Minute Maid or whatever it's called now in Houston, and now the Rangers. Those are the only 2 indoor stadiums that I've been to, but thank God it was enclosed because I think it was 108 degrees the day that we went to the ball game, and it was nice and 72 degrees inside, and was just a beautiful layout. What's odd about that ballpark is the old venue is still next door, and they haven't ripped that thing down yet. So you've got 6 Flags, you got Cowboy Stadium, and then 2 Texas Rangers ballparks, all right in the same neighborhood.
Are they playing? They're playing the high school games there, I thought, aren't they?
They're playing some kind of charity in high school, and it's like pretty sure you could play those in the new stadium too. How about ripping it down and making a nice hotel or some restaurants and bars and shops? But who am I?
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
If you saw what the Mets just did.
Rally Chris has just reported that the Angels are interviewing Ron Washington as the manager position. Rally Chris is the big Angels fan. I didn't know. I feel he deserves to be back in the manager position. That's just me.
If he wants to
I don't know
be.
what you
I
guys
don't know
think.
if he wants to be. I'll be honest. I think he's very happy where he is. That load is a lot lighter. He's getting older, and he has a great chance to win another World Series next year. If he goes into Anaheim, they're possibly going to go to a rebuild. I mean, they're even talking about trading Trout. So I doubt we're going to see Ron Washington go anywhere other than maybe Houston. There is rumors there, but I actually talked to some people. I'm not even sure if he's been in the interview room. It's just kind of hearsay. So going back to what you're saying about Texas.
For the last 4 years.
Yeah, but this one's a little bit more serious because they really don't have a path unless they do a lot of work this offseason to getting in their winning ways, and they've kind of been dismantled from the top down. But talk about Texas's stadium. Have you seen what the Mets are going to do? $8 billion are putting in to renovate around the stadium and how much revenue that's going to bring in. It's remarkable. The Pirates are doing the same thing around PNC. They're spending a little over $150 million to do more of a battery type like Atlanta has. So I think a lot of stadiums are trying to do that, take that, Chicago feel or St. Louis feel, which I love. I think it's great for the game, and it makes it a full day event. And I think it's good for the whole family.
Mets should worry about their roster.
All right. Are you talking about Wrigleyville outside? You're talking about the Wrigleyville thing?
Yeah. A lot of teams are trying to take that. Yeah.
That is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They should. They've made a lot of weird moves, haven't they? The Mets. Man.
Yeah, I personally didn't understand why the heck they went with Carlos Mendoza, the bench coach from the Yankees. I didn't get that move as a manager. I mean, I understand the Mets are trying to.
Why'd they fire their manager is the first question. Right?
Well,
not even 3 years in.
Honestly, McHenry, I think it's kind of a situation of they both wanted to part ways with each other. I don't think Buck was really happy there. I don't think Buck was real happy with ownership or with the front office. The front office was in no direction anyway. And I mean, David Stearns has street cred. You can give him credit for that for the time that he was in Milwaukee. But I think it was a mutual party. Buck didn't like them. They didn't like Buck, and they were both happy to shake hands and say good luck next time. But Carlos Mendoza, I mean, are you kidding me? Well, I understand guys have to get a chance somewhere, but I just didn't understand that. And then why are you going to poach the Yankees staff that got criticized all year for the way they handled their players on their roster? I just don't get it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just an average baseball fan, but yeah, Mendoza going to the Mets. Lots of luck, Mets fans.
I don't know enough about him. I do know that the analytical department and the front office make a lot more decisions than the people on the field nowadays, and a lot of teams. So the reality of it is, it may be that he has a good relationship with the front office, the new front office look with the Mets, and he's a guy that can kind of put pen to paper and figure some things out. I mean, that's the reality of the game. That's why a lot of young managers get the job.
Yeah, well, it could be. I mean, everyone was wondering why Arizona hired Torey Lovallo back in 2016.
Oh, he's great.
And they gave him a chance. Yeah, they gave him a chance to develop that roster, and look where Torey got now. So maybe Mendoza, who knows? Mendoza could be the next Torey Lovallo. We just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It is weird for a big market team, though. I'm with you.
Yeah, it is.
Mike, I thought you were going to hang your jerseys behind you.
So I moved rooms. I had a little studio room.
Oh, you moved the room again?
I have, yeah. So I'm actually trying to figure out what I want to do with it. The room I was in has become more of a, I guess, a yoga / cardio room for me and my wife. She won that battle, rock, paper, scissors. So I think it'll be better served that way. And now I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, I'll show you my collection.
All your jerseys hung behind you would look great.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll have it done by the next time we talk. Yeah, no doubt. I've been a collector since I was a kid.
All right. I have a good bit behind me too. Oh, geez.
Yeah, see.
I see that.
Anyway, Mark, you were about to say something. I think.
No, I was just, I mean, just the Mets. They're kind of remind me of the Browns. Everything they touch just turns to garbage. So I don't I don't have high hopes for what they just did, but God bless them.
You know what's funny about that, Mark? I know the Haslam family
Mhm.
relatively well, and you kind of, if you know Jimmy, you know that he was going to go at it full steam, very much like Cohen did, and try to throw money at it
Mhm.
without understanding the ins and outs of the game, the intricacies of how to deal with players, how to move and shuffle rosters. And I think Steve Cohen has actually figured it out a lot faster. I
Mhm.
think having to pay a bill roughly $150 million in taxes may have
Mhm.
opened his eyes. And he's like, wait, we got to do this a little bit different. And that, for me, the league should be scared about, because this guy wants to win for his team that he loved since he was a child. A little bit different than the Haslam family, who, they wanted to get into it and they want to win a championship because they want to win anything. They're very competitive and they have a standard that's so high that people are very rarely going to keep it. But eventually the Haslams and the Browns will win the Super Bowl, I promise, just because of his personality, and he'll finally figure out the people he needs to surround himself with. But Cohen, it seems like it hit him this year after what happened last offseason. So I'd love to hear your thought on that, because I saw a shift, with him getting out in front, putting face on camera, and being bold about what he was saying. I thought that was kind of cool for an owner to do.
Yeah, and I don't know the Haslams personally either, but
Oh, they've completely mashed up the Browns. Trust me.
yeah, it's but they did win the championship with the what was it, the Columbus Crew soccer team. So they
And
got one
now they
under
own
their belt now, just the wrong team.
Yeah, exactly. Now they own the hockey team in Nashville too, the Preds. So
Yeah,
they're stacking up.
yeah. Well, I don't. I mean, what I was just tickled about this year, the Yankees and the Red Sox did not make the postseason.
Amen.
That brought a big smile to my face.
Mark, what about your new
It didn't
hire?
bring a big smile to the TV ratings.
No, it did not.
Right? Nope.
What do you think
I
about
mean,
your
this
new
is
manager, Mark?
Definitely the
Stephen Vogt.
lowest.
I have no information about the guy. I know he was a catcher, so at the very least, they should have the Guardians should have very good tutoring on the catching side with Sandy Alomar, and now with their new manager. But it's odd going from Francona, who had all the experience in the world, and Hall of Fame manager, and to go into a rookie that really doesn't have any experience in managing. So
I can actually help fill. I can help fill in the blanks with Stephen Vogt a little bit. When he was in Oakland, he was an All-Star for a couple of years, and he was widely known in Oakland for being a really good in-game manager, in-game strategist.
Mhm.
And in fact, when Bob Melvin was still the manager in Oakland, there were times where Melvin would actually let Vogt kind of help him strategize a lot of the in-game strategies. So, and Vogt also well known for communicating with pitchers, communicating with younger players on his team. And Vogt also, is a San Joaquin Valley boy. He went to Golden West High School down the street in Visalia here, about 45 minutes. So I'll be rooting for him. But I think, Mark, give him time. Give him time.
You're going to love him, Mark.
Yeah, I think he'll end up being a very good, solid major league manager. But the front office there, Mark, they have got to surround him with the talent to win. You give him the talent, and I think he'll be able to do a really good job.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, they have so many holes. We talked about if they stayed healthy. If you remember, Adam, on the one show we had when we were doing our predictions, if they stay healthy, we think they can contend in that Central Division, which is nothing special. Obviously, staying healthy did not happen when you have 3/5 of your starting rotation out, and then other guys.
We talked about that, Mark, and that was going to be their biggest issue.
What's that?
We talked about their starting rotation. It was questionable going into it, and then they got hurt, and it was they just couldn't rebound.
Yeah, they couldn't rebound, and then he didn't have the typical Jose season that you're. But I mean, there's just so many that they have so many needs that there's no way that they plug all the holes. And I was happy to hear the front office come out and say they need more production out of the outfield, and offensively we've got to get a lot better.
Mike, I know that's not your team, but any news on the Pirates? I know we did. I know we lost a couple players. Cruz possibly going down to Dominican for the recovery. I don't really. What do you call it? Like, do you call this recovery? Getting back in game form? What? I mean, would you let him go? I guess that's the bigger question. I know we talked about it backstage, but people might want to hear your answer on stage.
I think overprotection of the players is never good. I think it's his decision at the end of the day. I think the Pirates are going to be very bold in what they say, and they probably don't want it because you don't want him to get hurt. And I understand that too, but he's got to find real reps. And I know the more reps I got after surgeries, I felt more comfortable. I went into multiple spring trainings and hadn't played in a game. And I had to figure out ways, creative ways, to put myself in high stress situations to feel comfortable doing things that I knew I was going to have to do, but wasn't able to figure out a way to do it because I wasn't in any high volume stress or any opportunities to actually play. So hopefully if he doesn't get into the Dominican League, which I know he wants to, it's been released. He lives there. It's easy. It's a simple commute. They'll protect him, which I think is very important. So I'd love to see it, even if he just DHs, gets a couple of bats here and there, but I'd love to see him get an opportunity. And the rules there are a lot different, so he can kind of come in and out of the roster. I'm not sure all the different rules they have than the MLB, but hopefully they can figure out something. If nothing else, he'll be at the complex playing maybe some pickup sandlot style baseball. But yeah, I think getting him on the field, making up some of that time would be really, really good for him. And in regards to the Pirates, I love that it's been a little bit quiet. They've, designated some guys. Almost all of them got picked up. It shows the talent pool that they had on their roster. Almost every guy that got designated ended up getting picked up on waivers. And it kind of shows where we're at and where we're going. I think it's going to be a very good team moving forward. I think they have some question marks, but I think they'll be able to answer them pretty quickly in this offseason, especially with all the big names at the top that I think are going to ask for so much money. It's going to allow those mid-tier teams, especially the Pirates who have a ton of money to spend. I think upwards of $50 to $70 million they could spend this offseason. So it's going to be very fun to see what happens. I hope they lock up some guys first and then, maybe sign one or two pitchers to solidify the roster.
Put that on a clip right there. They're going to spend $50 to $70 million.
I mean, they've been up to $119 million in payroll. And the way that they're trying to structure, and I think a lot of teams are, is like Atlanta. They're trying to get a core. And I think Baltimore is in the best case scenario ever to do this, to where you have a team that you can look at for the next 5 to 8 years and be like, wow, we're really good on paper. We're really good on the field. We're really good in the community. And we can just absolutely run and then add the pieces where you need to. The Pirates are close to that. They have a lot of young players that aren't arbitration eligible that they could start locking in for undervalue now and hope and pray that they far exceed their value, like we've seen a lot of those Braves guys do, and that's what Baltimore's going to be doing. A lot of these teams with young talent are going to lock these guys up, get them through their prime, and then let the big markets take them when due time, or they could always trade them. And they have incredible value when you have club control.
I think you'll see Santa Claus come down my chimney tonight before we see him spend that kind of money. I don't think that's any chance of that.
We'll see. The numbers look good. I say conservatively, he's going to spend way more than he did last year. And he spent money last year. So I think he'll go back out and you'll see Kutch sign. And I think you'll see some, even if they repeat what they did last year and then add on maybe a Mitch Keller contract and add on maybe a Bednar contract, they're going to far exceed, $40 million pretty easily. So when I say 70 million, that's really not that much in regards to adding to their payroll. Cause right now it's probably somewhere in the 35, 40 range with all the people that are kind of off target.
I think I saw Mike.
Yeah.
Really
Jay,
quickly, what's the depth of the Pirates minor league organization like? Where do they rank in terms of top prospects, and how major league ready are they?
They're top 5 across the board. Some will argue that they're in the top 3. their pitching at the AA and AAA level is going to be really, really good. Now they got to take off the handcuffs. These guys have been handcuffed and kind of coddled, but we obviously got the first pick overall last year, one of the best pitching prospects in the last couple decades. He's probably going to be
up there next year, Mike.
Yeah, he'll be up there next year. I'm not sure when. I'd love to see him day one, but I think just the way that they conservatively went about his development and what he's been into this winter, I think it's going to be more probably late April to June when he'll be called up. But they have the depth, but they need to create depth when it comes to protecting these guys, because none of these guys can pitch late in the postseason because they've never been there. So if that's the plan, if they're going to try to run at the wild card and deeper, maybe even try to win the division, they're going to have to think about what type of veteran arms can we get? How can we stack up this bullpen and find a balance to the usage of some of these young guys?
Yeah, the reason I asked about the depth of the Pirates farm system is because you mentioned Baltimore, and I think Baltimore is really the best model for a lot of mid-market, small-market clubs to follow, because Mike Elias, their GM, when he was hired, he looked at his payroll and he said, look, we're not going to be able to outspend the Yankees. We can't outspend Boston. We can't outspend the Dodgers. So let's just blow it all up. Let's invest all of our payroll, or most of it, into replenishing our farm system. Because when Elias came in and took over, the Orioles had a bottom 5 farm system. Now they have a top 10 farm system, top 5 farm system that produced results for them. They suffered through the bumps and bruises of a couple hundred lost seasons, and now it's translating to 100 win seasons. And now you look at the Orioles going forward, those guys, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and those pitchers that they have, Grayson Rodriguez, oh my Lord, the ceiling is high for those guys. And so I would think if I'm an organization like the Pirates, I'm looking at what Mike Elias did in Baltimore, and I'm saying, look, we've lost for a long time. What's 3 or 4 more seasons if it means revamping our farm system, building with these young guys the way the Orioles did with theirs, and hedging all my bets on those guys? What do you think about that?
I mean, that's what they're trying to do. They maybe didn't hit as well as the Orioles did. I don't know if you can hit any better than they have. They've really done an incredible job, because even their trades have hit, and that's the advantage of being a bigger market. I mean, the Orioles are a bigger market team. They have a ton of money in their piggy bank when they're ready to spend it. I think they're going to do it locking up guys if they're smart, and then supplement some pitching and some different things. Very similar to what, like I said, Atlanta has done, because Atlanta has a terrible farm system, but they have great depth and still have money to spend. I mean, they didn't spend as much as Philadelphia, so they have opportunity to grow there. And I think the Pirates are close. I really do. I think because of what they went through this year with all the injuries and the ups and downs, the incredible April, the fall off, and then a really good end of the season. And we saw some highlights of some of the young guys that started to step up. And I think once they figure out an identity, those young guys will really take off. Difference between the Pirates and Baltimore with those young guys is Baltimore gave their young guys a chance, and they just left them out there. With the Pirates, there was a lot of searching, a lot of movement, a lot of guys going different positions, doing different things. I think next year you're going to see more solidified guys in certain roles. You're going to see O'Neal Cruz at shortstop. You're going to see either Nick Gonzalez or Peguero at second base. You're going to see Keith Ryan, a staple Gold Glover, probably going to be a Platinum Glover at third base. You're going to see Triolo moving around the diamond. Brian Reynolds locked up long-term. Sawinski in center. Kutch playing some right. They'll probably get an extra right fielder. And then Connor Joe floating around as well. So you have a staple now. And that hasn't been the case over the last couple of years. It's really, really important.
Do you think they stick with Derek Shelton long-term as their manager, or do they cut him loose and bring in somebody else?
I'm not a big believer in shuffling the deck too often. I think there's a lot more to it. So I hope next year he improves again and they give him another opportunity. I know the players like him. He's getting comfortable there. And I think it takes time. Like you said, I think you're going to see some teams, like you may see Cleveland this year, just take off behind Vogt. But I mean, you can replace a guy just like Craig Counsell just replaced David Ross. And what did Ross do wrong? You know, that's $8 million you're not going to be able to spend for players that you technically could have had when David Ross is going to be under contract next year as well. So you're going to be paying 2 guys. And maybe you got the secret weapon. I don't know, but it's crazy to see how fast the game shifts and how fast they get rid of guys when the reality of it is a lot's coming from the top down. So maybe they should get fired.
Yeah.
You know what I liked about the Pirates? The Pirates this year, with Shelton, they fought to the end.
They did.
And, you know what? I mean, that means the manager
Mhm.
has their attention. And
Well said, Mark.
there's a lot of young kids on that squad that I really enjoyed watching. Watched a lot of the games on TV, several in person, but they got some good pieces to the puzzle. And if they can keep, they're in a just like the Guardians, neither Central Division, American League, or National League. You don't need to, win 100 games to win the division. So as long as you can stay close, there's not going to be any clear-cut favorite. I think they can hang around, and they showed some fight all the way through the game 162.
Right. And wouldn't you say that it's invaluable experience that young guys get?
Mm-hmm.
I think Cleveland and Pittsburgh are very similar when you think about you got to get them out there and let them play, let them fail. And I think they've done a great job with certain guys, letting them go out, letting them fail and say, we want you to succeed. Get out there, do your thing. And Terry Francona was maybe the best at letting you know where you're at. And I had him for a very short time when I was in Boston. I respect the man so much. But when you have those managers that can get that player's trust and they're playing a little bit differently, that's the Tampa Bay Rays, that's the Diamondbacks, that's the Clevelands, that's the Pittsburghs of the world that kind of step it up a little bit when it's really push come to shove. So
Yeah.
great saying.
Yeah, and when you're a small market franchise, you have to build from within. You have to develop. You have to draft well. You have to develop well. You get those folks to the major leagues, and odds are probably not that you're going to keep your star players. But in Cleveland, you kept a Jose Ramirez, but you lost to Lindor. So just got to continually be developing in the minor leagues to be able to maintain if you want to be competitive as a small market ball club.
Yeah, you got to bet on the right guys. Is what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss, if you
what
hedge
do you
your
think of
bets
this
the wrong
comment
way, you're
from
in
the
trouble.
Back It Up Binge podcast? What do you think of this comment right here, guys? I know we were just talking about Baltimore, and this popped up on the timeline, so I figured I'd put it up there real quick.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't pay everybody, but you gotta pick and choose. And like I said, you have to bet on the right guys. They're gonna trade guys that fans are gonna be absolutely floored with, just like Tampa Bay has. But you flip it, and I always say it's like an asset. If you're playing in the stock market, you trade something to get something to hedge your bet later, or maybe just possibly fill in gaps now. And I think they're in a great position in every aspect to sign guys long term, to get what they need, whether it's through assets in the minor leagues or in the big leagues. They're in a great place.
That's exactly what Andrew Friedman does in Los Angeles. Andrew Friedman does his version
with all the money in the world.
With all the money in the world, he does his version of addition by subtraction. And look, even though Friedman does a very good job at it, he also has his hits and misses. I'm going to say the Josh Fields trade for Yordan Alvarez. We saw how well that trade worked out. And McHenry, you probably know O'Neill Cruz used to be in the Dodgers organization.
Yep.
They traded him to Pittsburgh so we can get Tony Watson, a left-handed reliever, to make that push for the postseason a few years back. So you're right. It's about how you value your roster, how you evaluate your young players, how you evaluate the veterans, how they all pull together and mesh together. But then you also say, look, here's where we still need to make improvements here and there. And if that means you have to get rid of a highly coveted top 50 prospect to bring in another guy to kind of fill in the gaps, to let him bring the younger guys up from other parts of the team, so be it. And again, that's what Andy Friedman has done probably better than any executive in the game, other than maybe Theo Epstein and maybe other than I would say, who am I thinking of? Not Jed Hoyer, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, you can make it work, but you just have to be really creative with the roster, real creative with the payroll as well.
Yeah, you got a stacked deck. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would say that was the biggest advantage for big market teams like LA. I mean, you talk about development. Yeah. They have more assets in their development when it comes to money and revenue streams and department size than anybody else. And you can't compete. You think you can develop a team as a small market. You're still have to spend, and you just can't miss. LA can miss. Right. They can trade a O'Neill Cruz who looks like he's a maybe player from another planet and say, well, we still got Corey Seager and so we'll be fine. Yep. and they can hedge their bets and win now.
Trade.
Say what?
I'm sorry, Adam.
You guys had Trey Turner at the time of that trade, right? Or was it Seager?
They
No,
traded
we
for
had
Trey
Seager.
Turner and moved Seager, or when Seager got hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember Dodgers history. Sorry. Oh. But anyway, Mike, back to your points. What were you saying?
I was just saying, like, small market teams, what reason why I feel like the Pirates are in a really good place, and certain teams did this, and the Baltimore is a great example. If they go spend some money now, you can't look at what they did last year. Look at the last 5 years and how much money they've saved ever since they got rid of Chad Davis or Chris Davis and some of the guys that were really, holding up a bunch of money. He's still the highest paid player on the Baltimore roster. You look at that and you say, well, if they get to an average, just an average, let's get back up to $100 million a year where they were for probably a decade. If they've been saving that money or they've been utilizing that in a different way, then they have a huge piggy bank. Now think if they've been investing it. That's what I think the Pirates have been doing over the last 4 or 5 years. They've been way under where they were from 12, 13, 14, all the way up to 18, 19, when they were almost up to $90 million in 19. And then they just dropped off. They were at 28, 35, 64, back down to 45 to 65 or whatever it was. They're usually in that $90 million range. So if they just have held on to that money, they have a ton of money to spend. And that's what I hope they've been doing.
Mike, let me ask you this real quickly, if I may. Do you think the luxury tax has leveled the playing field a little bit? Do you think it's done what MLB owners wanted it to do, or do you think it's given the bigger market teams more of an advantage than what they had before the luxury tax was instituted?
I think it's just a cloak and mirrors, to be honest. After what Steve Cohen did this past year, it shows that money's not going to buy you a championship, but also like $150 million he's going to pay this year. $150 million. That means he had a roster, when you put it all together, almost a $500 million. It's $500 million to put up a year worth of baseball. So money's not going to buy you a championship. I think the most important thing they could do is have a floor. I'd love to see a floor. What about you, Mark?
Say again about you said would like
about
to
the
see
luxury tax and having a more competitive balance. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. I mean, it's hard when you look at it to compete, as we talked about. Some of these teams, some of these smaller market teams, and you get somebody with a large bankroll go out and spend that kind of money. No, it doesn't guarantee you a championship, but sure does help. Be competitive. There's no question about that. But you're not going to see the Guardians or the Pirates or even Tampa Bay or just go out and spend tons and tons of money. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Boston, Philadelphia, Houston. I mean, you look at their payrolls, you just shake your head. How do you compete with that?
Well, Mark, I also look at a team like the San Francisco Giants that has the 4th or 5th, maybe 6th highest payroll in baseball, and yet they like to have the cloak in front of them of being a small market team because they traditionally have not spent like a big market team, but they have the payroll to go out and bring in big guys like Shohei Ohtani and even make trades for guys like Mike Trout. So what do you say about the teams that have the bigger payrolls but choose not to spend like the other big market teams?
They shouldn't be in California.
All
those players got to pay that tax. I'm just saying.
Right.
The big difference.
Mike, you just put me in my place, man. You called an audible. Thanks for doing that.
Why is your best shortstop playing in Texas? It's called zero.
Right, exactly.
That's 15% on his money. That's crazy.
Yep. No, hey, I agree with you wholeheartedly, my friend. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
That's one thing that nobody talks about the payrolls and stuff. Some of these small markets don't have those tax implications that these big markets do. They have to overpay now. I mean, big time. I mean, if you go to California, I'll never forget playing in Colorado. When we played 3 series in California in a month, my paycheck was different. I mean, it was completely different. I mean, because you're talking about 15% as soon as you walk into the door in California, every day you're there on your money. And then you go back to Colorado, it's 4%. It's wild. You go to Arizona, it's 4%. You go to Pittsburgh, it's 4 or 5%. You know, you go to Texas, it's 0.
That's right.
You go to Florida,
Yeah,
it's
Florida.
0. You go to Tennessee, it's 0. That's a huge difference. That means that 15% on that $100 million compared to 0 on that $100 million, a big difference.
That's what I didn't know that. Like I never knew that, Mike. If you got paid just from like when you were here, you just got there from Pittsburgh. So you just said that you get paid like where you play.
You get paid in
Is
every
that
state you
correct?
play. Your taxes are a mess. Yeah, and then you have to pay your income tax to where you live. So if you sign a long-term deal in California, they'll come after you and say you live here and you have to pay those taxes. Where a lot of those guys live in Nevada, so they have no income tax.
You're praying for like a long road trip in Florida and then go straight to Texas on a road trip just so you get a decent paycheck.
Oh, it's a different paycheck, that's for sure. No doubt about it.
I mean, you're getting paid decent money anyway, but
Yeah, you're getting
zero
paid great
income
anyways.
tax is probably
And yeah, but when you push come to shove and you look at it for a long term, guys that sign out, you know, at bigger markets, whether it's New York or California or even in Chicago, I mean, you're getting tax difference. So you put that in the equation, it's a big difference. And then you put in the agent fees and manager fees and all that other stuff, you're looking at 25% of your contract's gone before you even started.
Mike, another question for you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so looking at the biggest free agent market, how much did he drop because of another surgery, Mike? How much would you pay Shohei?
$50 million. I mean,
Is
if
that
you
how
want him
far
for
you
more
feel
than
he's
1
dropped
year,
because of the arm?
yeah, I mean, he's still arguably one of the best hitters in baseball. I mean, he had a chance to possibly win the Triple Crown this year. I mean, outside of Judge, you don't have a better hitter when it comes to power. He also has speed. He brings so much to the table, and if he's just a DH next year, I think his numbers could go up offensively. So I think if you sign him to a multi-year deal, he's going to get $40-50 million easy. Now, maybe it's, you know, structured very, very different. I'm sure it's going to be deferred money. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have to pay this guy like he's 2 players, especially if you want him to pitch in the future. And he's only going to be a year away from it. And you may lose a month here. So he may get paid 25 and then 50 and then 55. When he's 2 players, how do you justify not paying him $60 million? He's Garrett Cole and, I mean, name Mookie Betts. That's the 2 hitter. That's the hitter pitcher combo he was 2 years ago. I haven't looked at it this year.
Do you guys
You look
feel
at that,
we might see the
crazy.
first? Do you feel we might see the first contract where, hey, you're pitching, you get this much, and if you're hitting, you get this much? Because now that arm's done, we're not going to know what he has left in the tank. This is going to be what, his 3rd Tommy John? I mean, might we
his
see
second.
the first contract of
His
2
second.
different structers? Is this his second? I thought it was his 3rd. I'm sorry.
It may be heavily incentivized. I doubt it'd be 2 different structures. He's going to get a lot of money guaranteed. I mean, he's still going to be upwards in the $35-40 million as just a offensive player. So, I mean, he's a special breed. He's in uncharted territories. I wouldn't even be surprised if they give him, if it's able to, if they gave him actual shares into the team. I mean, they're going to have to get creative to get this guy to stay.
I didn't realize he was just about 30 years old either.
Yeah, he's right in the middle of his prime. So like, and you always got to think if he shifts, right? You look at how Yu Darvish has been able to evolve. That guy signed an extension over $100 million in his mid to late 30s. When he shifts, when Ohtani shifts, he could just go to pitch. He's still a $25-30 million player right now in his 30s or 40s. If you put him in that market and he's just pitching, he's going to be a different dude because he doesn't have to worry about hitting. He's not spending that other time. So all that other time, you know, becomes studying, recovering, and getting ready for that next start. So he can always shift. So that money, the way they allocate it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be something we've never, ever seen and may never see again because he's a special breed.
So, Mike, quick question for you. Given the fact that Shohei is probably not going to pitch next season, is just going to be exclusively a hitter, do you think that's going to force executives to be a little bit more aggressive in making him and his agent meet their demands, or do you think it's not really going to make that big of a difference?
I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference. I think it's like I think LA Dodgers are the shoe in to get him, and I think they're gonna load him up like $110 million year one, something silly, where he gets a front load of that money because they are under the tax threshold. They did not break that barrier this year, just because now they can go into it and they've got money that they just gave away. Like they have open opportunity to do this. They showed with the Mookie Betts contract, they deferred a bunch of money there because if you keep those guys like Mookie Betts around and Ohtani around, they are guys that are going to bring value to your team for a long time, well after they leave the game. So I think Ohtani is probably going to be a Dodger. They're probably going to load him up in the front end and say, hey, we need you when you're ready here. And then, we're going to bring you in to pitch. And you think about how good that team's going to be for a while. It's kind of remarkable. It's maybe even silly.
Okay, but see, Mike, I hear what you're saying, but I also think there's still a chance the Dodgers could get outbid for Shohei. And the reason why I say that is because I look at a team like the Giants, who are desperate for star power right now. All of their great star players have either retired or moved on. Guys like Buster Posey, Madison Bumgarner, and now Brandon Crawford possibly retiring. Given the fact that the Giants have a payroll to spend a lot on, given the fact they need star power, the Giants have a very big Asian fan following up there. To me, it makes a lot more sense for Shohei to go to the Giants.
We lost him. What do you think, guys?
We did. Everybody bounced back on. Jay, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Sorry.
Yeah,
Jay.
I'm with you with any of those LA teams. I don't think the Mets have any chance. I don't think the Yankees are even going to try, but I do think you're going to see up the coast, maybe even
Boston?
Seattle.
What about Boston?
I think Boston has a shot. I do.
So.
I think they're the one East Coast team that could even pull off maybe both those guys. The super freak that's coming over who just got posted. I can't think of his name. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't be able to say it. But yeah, there's a lot of talent.
Yamamoto.
Yeah, thank you for that. I will not try to say that ever.
You're welcome. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Mm-hmm.
Phew.
So
it's gonna be interesting.
Don't the Red Sox? The Red Sox already have a pretty big Japanese pitcher, right? Right? Don't they? No. I thought they did.
The Mets do.
Yeah.
I don't think Boston does. Boston has in the past. But they're set up, and I think the Mets are set up to get that frontline starter from Japan too.
So what free agent move are we looking at? I mean, we've already had movement going on, but what big names do you guys see moving and where we're going? We just talked about Shohei. Is there anyone else that's going to be on that level of interest, or is everyone else mid in that level after Shohei?
Bellinger.
What do you guys think about? What do you think about him, Mark? I heard a really strong thing today on MLB. They were talking about this free agent class is different because there's a lot of guys that have shown out and been all-stars, even MVPs, but they've also been an under one player in seasons. So there's a lot of like risk in the top 10, top 15, whether it's injury, whether it's, performance. I mean, Solar, I believe, is a top 10 guy, but I mean, I've seen him not produce for 2 years and then be an all-star for 2 years. So what do you guys think about that kind of grouping? It's very different.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking at Bellinger, obviously he was very good. It seems like you would think he was 35 years old. He's 28, and
that's so true.
It seems like he's just been around forever. but I don't know. That one is kind of baffling because he just hasn't been consistent. Mm-hmm. But he's had some fantastic years. There's no doubt about it. But they're saying his market value would be $22 million.
I mean, I could go with that, especially how good he is defensively. You put him in a good lineup. I just think what he showed in a smaller market
Mm-hmm.
and not as quite as tough division, it'd be hard for me as a player to leave that, knowing I could probably get the money I'm looking for, not pay the taxes once again, and get an opportunity to have a really strong career, maybe even looking back at a Hall of Fame career because it was consistent. I think a lot of guys don't look at that. Sometimes they chase the dollar. Or they're advised to go a certain direction where like a Brian Reynolds took a lot less money than he was probably owed, but he's in Pittsburgh. He's comfortable there. He doesn't have to deal with the press that's in New York and that's in Boston and that's in LA. It's Pittsburgh. It's different. It's you give us all you got and we're going to be very happy with that.
Just ask Jose Ramirez versus Francisco Lindor.
Absolutely. What was his remarks, Mark?
What's that?
He had some incredible remarks like, this is home. I don't need extra money.
Yeah. He took a hometown discount and stayed put. And, with all that money comes a lot of pressure, certainly. And when you get into that New York market or Boston or LA, I mean, it's a different beast.
Amen.
I was just looking up free agents. I was trying to get it coming up on my phone.
Who do you guys dream to have? Mark, who do you want Cleveland to pick up? This is one of my favorite games to play. Like, if you could pick one hitter and one pitcher, who would it be? And then, Jason, the Dodgers, one hitter, one pitcher. And it could be Ohtani, just one, I guess.
Good question. Mark, you want to go first on this one?
No, I need a few minutes.
Adam, you got anything?
For our Buccos?
Yeah, I've heard some good ones for the Buccos.
I mean, our pitching needs help. We got Aaron Nola as a free agent this year. We got, I don't know if I'd like Aaron Nola, but Blake
he's
Snell,
out of our weight class.
That could be a little bonus.
But both those guys are out of our weight class, I think. Yeah. Yep.
So, where do I need to look?
Go below the top 10, I would say. Which I think it's the mid majors is what I call them. I think they're really good this year. I think there's a lot of good guys in that, 10 and below free agent category.
Now, do we want a young guy, Mike, or do we want an old guy?
Hey, this is on you.
I mean, if we're looking,
I asked you.
Right.
I got my picks. I was just asking you.
Right. I would definitely go pitcher. I mean, we could try and go after a few.
I think Rich Hill.
But I don't know.
You gonna go Rich Hill again? I like it.
Oh,
he'd be great in your bullpen.
He'll only be 44 at the start of the season. So
he wants to do a Brett Favre, so I was told. Come in about July.
So
maybe
Mike, you asked
Tyler Mahle.
We don't need Tyler Mahle. I like him, but we don't need him.
So Mike, you asked me who I'd like the Dodgers to get. Obviously, I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't want Shohei Ohtani. That goes without saying. A pitcher I would actually like to see them get is Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray has some street cred. He's been an all-star. Also, he is a Vanderbilt guy, just like Walker Buehler and just like Mookie Betts. And so I think you get him back with those two guys, that would help him out. And he has a good track record of consistency and durability. I'd like to see them make a push there for Sonny Gray. I think he would be an outstanding addition to that rotation, especially with Walker coming back from his second Tommy John surgery. They're not going to have Tony Gonsolin next year. So they're going to need some other guys to fill in the gaps in that rotation. So, give me Ohtani and then give me Sonny Gray.
Whew. It's pretty big right there.
I'm coming in hot, Mike. Coming in hot, baby.
I like it.
Yeah, but he's with that team that can afford that.
Hey, that was a low shot. No, I'm kidding. You're right. Thanks for that, Adam. Appreciate it.
Hey, Adam, would you want Cleveland back?
Logan just texted me and said Ohtani's going to go to a championship team. I just see them. We know, Logan. That's what he just texted me. So,
Yadier Molina, Logan.
Mike, who were you thinking?
I got a laundry list.
Let's hear it.
Well, I would love just to be funny. Joey Votto and Cueto would be hilarious for me, especially since the Reds just let go of Votto. I think he's going to be on the revenge tour, and I think he could play minimal, and he's going to be about $4 or $5 million bucks. Some of the pitchers that I see, I like a lot of them. I mean, Martin Perez. I like Rodriguez. He may be out of our price range. I mean, there's a lot of good dudes. Luis Giolito,
Right.
Luis Severio. I wouldn't mind.
He was
seeing
number
player-
10, Mike. You told me this.
I said below 10.
So Lucas is number 10.
He
He was
I
number
think
10
they're
on the
stretch-
list.
I think they're stretching with that. James Paxton would be good. I love lefties at PNC, so
I like
any of those
James
guys would be good. Luis Ferrio would be an absolute dream. Even if he didn't stay healthy, I think his price tag is absolutely perfect. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. My sleeper pick.
What did you go 4-8 last year, right?
Yeah, my sleeper pick is
Urbina
I
went
would
4-8.
really, I believe so. Kiermaier is my sleeper pick. Kevin Kiermaier is my sleeper. I would really love him.
He'd be our
Guys,
little
stud
utility guy.
defensively in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, you put a Gold Glover in the outfield to complement
Yeah.
a really good outfield going into next year, but I think he'd solidify. If he'd move around, he'd have to play all three. So I don't know if he'd do that.
I love the way Kiermaier plays on defense. The guy
Me
just,
too.
I mean, he sacrifices his body on every single play, and I love guys that play that way, regardless of whether they're all-stars or not, Mike. You were the same way when you were a player, man. I like watching you play because you gave it all back there behind the dish, man. So I like
appreciate
guys
it.
like that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
guys like him are good for the young guys to see. He leaves it
Yeah.
out there, and he's a really good mentor. I watched him
Yeah.
do some things with Corey Dickerson that was remarkable, and that's kind of why I was looking at guys in certain ways of like who would fit. I also want guys that'll actually pour into some of the
Yeah.
younger guys. So
Mark,
you're
I was
quiet.
the same way. Yeah, I was the same way, Mark, watching Grady Sizemore play in his heyday with the Indians, man. Grady gave it all when he was out there, too.
man, he
did.
was so good.
Awesome player.
And I saw he's coming back to this AL Central coach with the White Sox.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
Trader.
that. I like get Grady back in the game.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he did. He left them all out there. There's no question about it. But I mentioned Bellinger. I'd love to have him. But again, this is a pipe dream with the Guardians. But Clevenger kind of sticks out there for me as well.
That's a good one.
Knowing that he was there once before. I think he still got some gas in the tank. He's 32 years old. So
Alex Wood is another good one. That I
Which
was
one?
thinking. Alex Wood. If we don't sign him, you can have him.
There you go.
Down year, but he had a really good year the year
Alex
before.
Wood,
I love guys that can float, like Michael Lorenzen, guys that can float that are gritty and will grind. Any others, Mark, that you can see? Nick Martinez would be really good for a Cleveland team. A floater.
Yeah, I don't. Nothing. I was just looking at, and I saw this in the paper the other day. That, believe it or not, I know he's not very well liked in Pittsburgh, but they were talking about Hedges going back to Cleveland.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah,
As a backup, though.
as a backup.
Yeah.
And he got his World Series ring, right?
Man, what a year. $5
Yeah.
million bucks. Great defensive year and a World Series ring. Good for him.
What about you, Adam?
I thought that was it.
You're quiet.
For what?
Who do you
Me?
want?
I just
Quiet,
listen.
yeah.
That's what a host does. Listen. Like I said, I if you say they're going to open the playbook, let's bring in as many as we can.
Yeah, I just look
mean,
at the pitching.
Why not?
Yep.
What about the Tribe?
Why not? Bring in some veterans to show Paul there's some ropes, maybe some veteran knowledge. I would love to see Paul be here opening second day, if they're home. That way we have 2 sellouts back to back.
Yeah, it won't
But we
happen.
talked about that also before. And then Paul, it's just we did miss that matchup. The 1 and 2 went at it down in spring training, but Paul didn't start that game obviously. Who was their guy? Who was the Washington guy? Who was the outfielder for the LSU? Number 2 pick.
I'm drawing a blank right now. I can't think of
What
his
the hell
name.
was his?
Yeah, brain fart. Sorry.
Jay, do you remember? You're looking it up.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, I just can't remember his name, but that was supposed to be like a big key matchup.
Cruz.
And all of a sudden, Paul got scratched. Cruz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And
Dylan
So-
Cruz.
I think that's going to be a fun matchup. I think Paul's going to be here before we know it. And, it's going to be like a Garrett Cole when he got called up and very exciting. Everyone's going to be ready for it. I remember like rushing to the stadium when Garrett Cole was opening his first debut game. So that was
Yeah, he's
exciting.
gonna
to
bring
me.
a lot
I
of
still
hype.
get excited about stuff.
Yeah.
Where is he starting out? Double A or triple A?
There's been speculation for both. I would say probably AAA since he touched AA. But it's probably going to be more thought about with what the schedule looks like. So if Altoona is playing south in warmer weather, they may start him there. If Indianapolis is, which I think they probably will start on the road. They're doing a lot of renovations, so they may have him do that there. I think it's going to be weird to see how they kind of put all that together. And they have a lot of guys at the big league level that, as we sign free agents, are going to be trickled down into that AAA roster. So it's going to be interesting to see what that does with the younger guys. I mean, they started Henry Davis last year in AA. A lot of people assumed he'd be in AAA, and it's just because they didn't have the room or the space in AAA. So they're going to give him an opportunity to play, but we'll see which one.
I should have worn my Altoona Cruz.
How do you feel his growth?
How his growth went?
How do you feel Hunter Davis?
He's one of the biggest question marks for me moving forward and how good our team's going to be. I think he's got a catch. I've wanted to connect with him and try to pour into him and help him any way I can. I think he's going to be a lot better in the outfield, and I think he'll be better offensively. I loathe everyone that wants him to be a DH. I think it's the dumbest thing ever to take an athletic kid that can move around, that has the want to be good at multiple positions. And I think it brings more value to your team, even if he catches once a week. I think he makes your team a lot better having that versatility of 2 guys that can move outside of the catcher realm, very similar to what Mitch Garver did this year. He DH'd a ton. And being able to have that value is huge. But I think when you look at Henry Davis and Rodriguez, both guys could play multiple positions, maybe not great. Rodriguez has shown that he could play at least average. When they're hitting, they should be in the lineup. I mean, we need the offense, so being able to do that with guys that are on league minimum is huge.
I really liked watching Davis this year.
Yeah.
I was at the game where he made his debut, and you could see the excitement and some of the juice that he brought to the stadium, and people got into it. I think he had a double right out of the gate, and I like watching that kid.
He's very, very cerebral.
He hit that little looper down the left field line.
Yeah, he's really smart, almost to default. So I think having a year where he didn't maybe succeed at the major league level is really going to help him move forward. And I think solidifying where he needs to be, whether it's outfield, catching, DH, moving around, I think he'd be better served to get him in the lineup as much as possible. So I hope that is with him kind of moving around. But I think he's a guy that I wouldn't bet against, at least.
You think Keller is a number 1?
No.
I think he flirts with 1, 2, and 3, depending on where he's at. After the growth I've seen, I'm not going to bet against him. I think his improvement's going to grow, and this will be the first offseason he's going into the offseason just for growth, no new pitches, no new development, no overall on the body. He's going to get ready for the next season. And I'll be honest, I think as soon as they lock him up, and I don't think he'll try to kill the bank account. It's either going to make him a different dude, take him to that next level, or it's going to kind of fizzle him out. I don't know which one. I think it's going to take him that different dude. From what I've seen, his personality started coming out, and I always watch that to see, how a guy's really going to be. He started taking a little bit of a different role, and I really like seeing that.
Now, have you tried talking to any of these guys, Mike?
Yeah, I talked to. Yeah. I was just with Andrew last week. I talked to these guys every now and then. I talk to more of the coaches than I do the players. But yeah, whenever they reach out or whenever I'm around them, I sit down and talk with them, and used to be really close with a bunch of them. Starting to get close with these younger guys.
That's good. That's good. You seem like a good developer.
I appreciate that. It's a passion of mine. One day I'll probably get into it.
But I mean, that's a catcher being a leader.
You're a servant. Mark was in broadcast. I think as a guy that leads the broadcast crew, the person that's doing the actual play-by-play is like the catcher. He's calling the shots. He's moving left to right. He's making things happen, and you're setting up everybody for success. And that's ultimately what you try to do as a catcher, but you should do it as an individual in life and on the field, whether you're a coach, whatever you're doing. It's always better to serve, to lead than anything else. So that's something I feel strongly about, and that's what you got in Stephen Vogt. The dude's going to serve and work his tail off, and that's why I think he's going to be really good. And I think it's because Francona's there is why they wanted to hire a rookie, because now you have Francona pouring down because he took a different role. I love that hire. I really, really do. He's with my agent, somebody I really, really respect. So I'm excited for you guys in Cleveland.
So what do you guys think about so we were kidding about it before with the pitch clock and all that stuff, and the game shortened 24 minutes, I think it was. 24. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is there a correlation with the highest attendance since 2017? Is it because of the shortened games? What's your take on
it? Me first?
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to like the rule changes. I ended up liking them a lot. I think it made the game more predictable, which maybe helped, but I think the World Baseball Classic and the hype of all of it brought in more attendance. I think the coverage of the game was a lot better through and through. I think newness really brought, betterment, great weather. There's a lot that goes into it. It's only a year removed from us completely opening up the stadiums after COVID. I mean, we were into 2022 still not servicing the entire stadium. I mean, it was different. So I think you put all that together, first real spring training, no arguing with the MLB and MLBPA. There's a lot that went into it. So to say it was just the rules, I can't be that naive. I think they love to be that naive because it's like, ooh, look what we did. We made everything better. I do think if you go to a game, and I'm sure you guys have, it's fast. I don't necessarily love it at a game. I love watching it on TV. I hated it when I was there because if you don't have an Uber Eats to get you a hot dog or something to drink, you better not leave your seat because you're going to miss an inning. And a lot of these stadiums aren't retrofitted with enough LED screens, especially in the concourse, to see what's happening. So I think that's a fix. And I know they lost on, beer sales and different things. They were even trying to move it. So, yeah, I think there was a huge step forward, but also a step back when it comes to other things. But all in all, I loved it. I think it's great for the game, especially the home viewers. I think you can see a lot more. It was really tough for the broadcast, how fast it was, especially the in-between. I mean, you're talking about taking almost 30 seconds off the commercial time, which was crazy. And, we went to break faster. We came back faster. Everything was a tick faster. So getting replays in, getting analysis in, it was a different animal. What about you guys?
I at first I was very skeptical of the rule changes. I just wasn't sure, Mike. As a fan, I mean, I played ball in high school. I never played professionally like you did, but as a fan, I was skeptical about the rule changes as to how I would feel about them. But as the season wore on, I actually liked it. I did think that it was a lot of fun watching guys steal more bases. It was a lot of fun watching teams implement a lot more hit and runs, and a lot more sacrifices in there. It kind of brought back memories to the days when I would watch Whitey's Rug Burners in St. Louis and watch how the Cardinals would run teams out of the stadium with all the speed and the excellent defense and all the fundamentals of baseball there. It brought back the fundamentals of baseball, Mike. It brought back why you guys play the game, how you learn to advance runners. When you can't outpower the team by knocking 40 or 50 jacks out of the yard a week, you got to find ways to manufacture runs, sacrifice, suicide squeeze, hit and run. You have to be able to do all the intangibles there to win games, and that's what I liked about it. We saw more of that. I also think a lot of these exciting young players are drawing more kids to the game as well.
Absolutely.
Take a look at Ellie De La Cruz in Cincinnati. Plays with it like his hair is on fire. Bryce Harper still goes out there and plays like he's a 5-year-old in a Little League game still. I love the fact that these younger players are playing with a lot of excitement and a lot of zeal. And even though it rubs a lot of the media members the wrong way, hey, I'm for it. I mean, if it brings these young kids back into baseball, seeing these guys like Ellie De La Cruz, O'Neal Cruz, who has a howitzer for an arm at shortstop, I might add, seeing these young guys play the game the way they play it, that's going to bring more people back to the ballparks too.
Well
so I love it.
Well said.
Yeah.
I like the changes. I wasn't about them at first, but you got to give them a chance and then see how they work. Now there's some pickoffs. I loved watching the hitter batter once they learned how to manage the clock, like kind of still have that little battle of the mindset. That was fun to watch. Because especially the veterans were learning how to play mind games with the pitchers because of the 8-second rule. You did catch that every once in a while. The bigger bases, I mean, obviously, you loved watching. Oh my gosh, Ronald Acuna Jr. run around the bases. I mean, yeah, he was loving it. Obviously, crushed every record in the world. I feel this year. I kind of liked it. And then the shift. People were only playing at the bag, and hitters were adjusting well, I thought.
Yeah, Mike, let me ask you this real quickly. As a former, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead and do your take. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I wanted to ask it because I was kind of a proponent of at the game. At the beginning of the season, it was distracting for me to see that clock.
Yes.
Away, right. And then I can't imagine if a pitcher is on the mound, and that'd be interesting to ask Jason. And I know Jason Grilli was adamantly against it at the beginning of the year. I don't know if his tune has changed on it, but it was honestly at the game. It's distracting. That just catches your eye. That clock counting down. Did it moved the needle 24 minutes? I'm kind of I don't want to say a purist, but one of the beauties is like every one of my days is hurry up.
Exactly.
And it's like when I go to the game, I just want to sit back. I want to relax. I don't need the game time. That's one of the beauties of baseball. But if the majority likes it, then I guess it's good for the game. But I just, to me, at first I was adamantly against it, but as the season went on, I thought it was less of a factor for me.
Let me put it into perspective of business for you guys, which most people don't talk about. MLB would never be able to cover as many teams as they did this year or moving forward without a clock. The predictability of under 3 hours gives them a chance to only overlap a little bit here and there. How unpredictable it was prior to that, they could have never been able to take over all these markets. And that's ultimately what I think the big play was. They wanted to see if it worked in the minor leagues. It worked well. And now that they've implemented here, they want to stay at that 3 hour mark. They want to be completely almost perfect to that 3 hour mark. And the fact they got under it, they nailed what they wanted. And now they can be very predictable. They can have those short pre and post games going into it. They want to be at 2:45, 15-minute post game, and then back into that new game ready to go. That's the goal. I mean, that's why they did it. It is really more about money and driving revenue and being able to be more consistent, because if you're watching Cleveland and Pittsburgh and the Yankees and Boston are playing that night game and that mid-afternoon game you're watching, and you're you're going to piss off either the small market or the big market. It just depends. But, especially with them trying to take over these smaller markets, New York's not going to give up. Chicago's not going to give up. LA's not going to give up. They're networks. So they can be able to be predictable and play these games, at certain times and make sure, hey, they're cut off at this time. We move on to the next one. So fans will enjoy that. It'll be easier to watch and things like that. But at the same time, it's harder on the players. There's no doubt in my mind it's harder on the players with all the moving pieces, all the new rules, all the new time changes with game times. There was a lot of bad feedback when it came to all the new game times. That's just going to get worse.
Mike,
That's what I was going to ask.
rule changes.
Usually we had 7. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I know you had a question to ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of rule changes, Mike, as a former catcher, how do you feel about Major League Baseball possibly implementing the robo-ump system into play here?
I hate the robo-ump completely. I do like the challenge that they use in the fall league and they use it in AAA some this year, where you tap your head and you get so many challenges a game. I think it'd be great for Vegas. It'd be great for baseball. And it also show how good these guys really are behind the plate. I hate to think of the value lost over the last 100 years of the communication between the catcher and the umpire, the ability to manipulate the strike zone, ability to understand where the umpire strike zone is and manipulate it the best you can and take those little fun intricacies in the game that have been around so long. I think if they took away that stupid box during a telecast, it would save everybody a problem. It's not even right. So I think that would help more than anything, but I don't want to see the auto strike zone. You guys? It won't stop there, by the way.
I think it's funny. Like they have the white strike zone from the left-hand side. 'Cause that's where the camera is at PNC Park. It's not even directly
not every
behind home
park.
plate.
Yep, not every park though.
I don't know about every park. I only know about PNC because that's the only one but I know it's a little bit if you're standing behind it, it's on the right, but when it comes across the TV screen, it's on the left. So it's a little bit off and it's never really on. So it's hard to always see that from the home viewage. And
there's no
it throws a lot
standard
of
to
people
it.
off.
Yeah, it's a graphic they put in. There's no standard to it. So
Mark, you're a purist. How do you feel about it?
I think, I was going to bring up a story of when I was announcing. I went down in the locker room and the umpire, and again, these guys are treated like kings. They have a buffet starting at 5 o'clock, games at 7. They work 3 hours. They go out afterward. They golf the next day. And the umpire told me, listen, anything close tonight's a strike. I want to get the hell out of here. Okay. Then maybe you're not in the right job. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
they did take care of that though. Like with the umpire scorecard on Twitter, they get a value and a grade. And if you're not to a certain par now, they kick you out. You're
how
out.
does Angel Hernandez still?
He's not a job. He doesn't
I
have a
have
job.
no idea.
He's out. He's not
Is he
part of
out?
the umpire. Yeah, he's completely
He's
out.
done.
Mhm.
Good.
I was found out. Thank God. He was bad.
So it goes back to the quality of the
cost.
umpire.
I
And
agree with
again,
you.
I don't know if it's the quality of what I just described, where somebody just wants to, collect the check and get out of there. Then the RoboCop's maybe a good thing, but going back to the purist thing, I still think the interaction. You're going to have errors. You have replay to correct any call that's wrong. I still think it's a live umpire.
I like that human element. I'll never, the arguments, the fighting of the balls and strikes.
Mhm.
I love all that. I think losing it would dehumanize the game. I really do.
I can't complain to a robot.
Exactly.
I got to get on the umpire.
Exactly. I may short circuit him.
You can't kick dirt on a robot either.
Yeah.
Well, you could. I'd probably get a fire hose instead. Make sure he's out of commission.
Right.
Yeah. What? Like, are they waterproof?
No, it's a
Like,
system
what
where
happens
they'll be told ball or strike. There'll still be an umpire there. It's not an actual automated system. It's going to be in his ear, strike, ball.
Oh, so we're still paying the guy to stand behind home plate to do nothing.
Correct. No, he'd still be doing stuff because he'll be implementing all the other rules that he has. I mean, if you ever picked up a baseball rule book, what all's on their plate, especially the home plate umpire, I think if they delegated a little bit better, there's no reason the home plate umpire should be looking at the clock, seeing check swings ever. I'd rather automate that than automated strike zone. Like, figure out all the things and take more off of him so he can just focus on the strike zone. That would one help. I guarantee they get better. They don't need to be telling guys to get in the box or looking up and calling ball or strike because of the time. They got to figure those things out before they try to automate it, because once again, they're going to have a buzzer on their side. They're going to have something in their ear. They're going to have their other umpires in this year talking back and forth to them like they had this year. It's just a different world right now. I got something for you guys before we jump off here. Is how far away do you think we are from having an offensive coordinator or analytical coordinator up in the booth, just like football?
Oh boy, that's a good question, Mike. Holy crap! You should ask Andrew Friedman that question. Wow, that's a good one. You know what? Honestly, Mike,
I've gotten asked that. I wanted to ask because I don't think we're too far removed.
I don't think we are either. In fact, I think I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I'm just a fan. I never played the game professionally, so I don't know how the inner workings, especially in the front office, work. Mike, you would have a better take on that than I would. But I think, given the fact what I've heard as a fan, that how a lot of rosters nowadays are built with laptop computers, analytics, mathematical equations, whatnot, I would not be surprised if we get somebody in that booth who is signaling through a two-way radio or something down to the dugout, hey, we have this guy coming up bat right now. He's only batting 140 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, but yet he's batting 360 every other time. Let's see what we have to do with this guy. So maybe my interpretation is way off, but what I'm trying to point out here is that, we hear about all this stuff going on behind the scenes anyway. So, it only stands to reason that this would be just another natural development in the analytical age of baseball, where you spread out the numbers crunchers and you put them elsewhere and see what their influence does somewhere else. I don't know. Am I too far off on that assumption?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's already being done in some places.
Okay. Mark,
I always look at the Blake Snell incident and go, we need to eliminate it altogether, because Blake Snell should have stayed in that game. And maybe Jason wouldn't have been raised in the World Series. But anyway.
Well, let me tell you, as a Dodgers fan, when Kevin Cash
great game.
He did. And why Kevin Cash went to yank him, even as a Dodgers fan, I screamed, said, why are you taking him out, Kevin Cash?
Yep. They have an outline. So they have all these scenarios and they lay it out.
Like we talked about coaching old school, and that might have been a moment to go old school. So, but as far as getting them in the booth and everything, I imagine they're already there. They're somewhere. They have to be, because
but aren't the analytics already in the dugout? Whether you're in the dugout or in the booth, they have the iPads with all the stats and that's all worked out before the games, no?
Yeah. It's if I showed you a scouting report, individual reports, player cards, you guys would be mind boggled at all the information. It's too much.
Yeah. Back in the day, even in broadcasting, you used to have to keep your own scorebook with everything. Now you just have a screen in front of you. And it's, this guy liked to eat Chinese food on Wednesdays every other week. It's like you have every stat in the book so who knows? But I think that, a lot of that's done behind the scenes. And you go back to that just flashed back in my mind. You go back to the analytical and Adam, when Hargrove pulled Mike Jackson and after the 8th inning in Game 7 against the Marlins, the guy was just mowing him down and brought in Jose Mesa and that was all she wrote. But, sometimes you got to go with this, who's got the heart to be out there. But a lot of that stuff, I think, from what I've seen, at least back in the day, was, you've got every stat in the book already worked out beforehand. And whether you're in the booth or in the dugout, I think you're probably, not going to see a whole lot of difference in my estimation.
Agreed. They're just always looking for new ways, and there's all types of roles. I encourage you guys, anybody listening, to go look at people that work for the Pirates in the front office. You know, what type of roles they have. You'd be mind blown. I get asked all the time, like, about internships and, what are some of the roles I could maybe think about in baseball. And this one kid, he's very, very logical, very analytical. And I gave him a list and he was like, I don't know what any of this is. And it was a list about 25 different roles that he'd never heard of in baseball that make decisions every single day on the roster and everything else based off of analytics. And he had no clue. He had no clue it even existed. And most people don't, and I don't think people realize how much it it influences every single game and every single day. But yeah, you're right, Mark and Adam. And the reality of it is you cannot take away the variable of the heart and what your eyes are telling you. I mean, I think that's the purity of the game. That's why Bochy ends up winning the World Series.
Yes.
So.
Well, boys, we've been going at it for an hour and a half. Are we good?
I am going to have to bow out of here, Adam. Yeah, I got some
That's
stuff
what
I have to do.
I
so
was
have
asking
to
that.
talk about.
I know you got a bill, Jay. And I'm grateful you
Yeah.
gave us an extra half hour, actually. I'm sure whoever's
Yeah,
waiting for you on the other end, since it is only 6:30 out there, right? 7:30?
actually 7:42, and my wife and my daughter are looking at their watches going, come on, let's go.
Dinner
So,
time.
Yeah, exactly. Dinner. And before I checked onto the podcast, I just got home from work about 4 minutes before I had to check in, or 8 minutes. So I literally texted Adam and said, hey, just got back from work. Give me 8 minutes and then I'll check in. So I didn't have time to eat much or anything else
Right.
like that.
Well,
Don't get
Jay, before
hangry
you
on
punch
us.
out, how people get you?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I just want to say big thanks to Mark and Mike. It was a pleasure talking baseball with both you guys. I hope I get a chance to do it again sometime. And Adam, to answer your question, if you guys want to find me, my Twitter handle is right there, @DodgerJason. Go ahead and follow me, drop a line, tell me I'm an idiot for my comments. I don't care. Say what you want to say. But again, it was fun talking ball with all you guys. Hopefully, we do
Great
it
to
again
meet
sometime.
you.
And Adam, always a pleasure to be on the show, man.
Yeah, great meeting you.
Yes, sir, Jay. Anytime.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thanks a
buddy.
lot, guys. Take care.
All right,
Thank
Jay.
Take care, and God bless, guys.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
I think he's gone.
I probably got one or two more questions I got to bounce too. Before I have a cough attack, I've been trying to get over it.
Right?
Mark, you're gonna
Need
have
some
to.
exercise.
I don't know what I need. I'll have to change information so we can stay in touch and talk ball. Maybe even grab lunch sometime since you're in the area. I'd love to get to know.
That'd be
you.
great.
Yeah.
I'll get Grilly since we work at the same place. So
Oh yeah, please just get my number from him.
yeah,
Yeah, he'll give it to you.
that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. You got any other brain busters,
I love it.
Adam?
I love it.
Before we bounce off.
No, I'm good right now. I feel this was a solid conversation, as always. Exciting. I love talking ball. I really do. But yeah,
I got
love
one more for you
listening
guys.
to
That is Mark.
All right.
Expansion. How far removed are we? And the other question would be regional networks or MLB takeover. I mean, I'm obviously right in the middle of that right now, and I like hearing fans' perspectives and baseball people's perspectives. So, what do you guys got?
I'm a little irritated this year because I paid for Bally Sports Ohio to watch the Cavaliers and the Guardians, and the Cavaliers worked out great. Got to watch the games being from Cleveland, and then when it came to baseball time, I went on there and not accessible. Called in and I said, "Hey, I paid for this." Well, I'm so sorry. We're working with Major League Baseball, and I didn't get to see one game the whole year. So I think I don't know what the answer is to that, but it was.
Did they tell you what it was?
What's that?
Did they tell you what, like, the reason? They said you're restricted, right?
They said that I was restricted, but they were working with Major League Baseball.
So Major League Baseball blacked them out. Bally's took out a huge loan to get their streaming services, and they blacked out certain cities. That's NBA. That's why you could watch it NBA wise, because they've solidified a deal and let the fans watch it. Right? Like, I think
Yeah.
more eyes the better. And I pray that they let these networks do it. And if they're going to take it over, I think you're going to have a diminished product. I really do, because I think you're going to lose the feel of being in that small market in that region. You know, like, you're not going to get to know the players the same way.
Yeah. I hope they
I
can
hate to hear
save it.
that. Yeah, me too.
About you, Adam?
I don't know. I listen to a lot of games on the radio for Pittsburgh. And then if I wanted to, I had a Sirius radio, because I always worked during the games. I always worked during the hours. So I would listen to Tom on Sirius, and I would listen to Greg on 93.7. Or if I was still on my Sirius, I would pop it on whatever channel the Pirates were on that night. I would listen to baseball altogether on Sirius, actually, because I could get every game. So I didn't really watch TV much, since we're being honest here, because I was at work and most of the games were in the later half. And if I was tuned in, I would listen on my way home. And then, I get home at 9 o'clock and most games are almost over by then. But I can say this honestly, listening to the Yankees was one of the most boringest games I've ever listened to on Sirius.
Fair enough.
Regardless of how good that announcer is and how long he's been, even brought in some chick to go with them. But I mean, he was just boring. With that kind of lineup, you need an energy behind it. Like maybe we got spoiled. Maybe Pittsburgh got spoiled. Tom Prince, Lanny Fratteri, Greg Brown. Maybe we just got spoiled. I don't know.
They're very
But
good.
when I hear another team announcing, that's what I want to hear. Like Tom and Mark, help me out. Who's Tom's co-host?
His Tom Hamilton's?
Yeah.
Tom Hamilton on the radio is I'm trying to think. He came in
The
after
Rock?
I was gone. What was his name?
Rock, I think. But anyway, I thought those two called a good game.
Yeah.
Mike, do you believe we were spoiled in Pittsburgh with who we had?
Absolutely. They're some of the best
I
in the industry, in my opinion. I don't think you can get much better, especially with Greg Brown. His heart and soul's in Pittsburgh. I mean, he's from there. It was his dream to do it. And I think when you get someone with that type of passion behind it, his enthusiasm's infectious. From a color guy like me or a fan just watching it, he's going to bring it to life in a way, and he's going to have emotion to it. And I think a lot of times these guys get away from that. And I understand that part too. And sometimes you have to, especially when you're not winning. But I think the fan wants to hear, enthusiasm as much as they want to hear the ins and outs of just the actual play. And, you can't just be monotone. You have to just be who you are. So if that guy in the Yankees was who he was and that's what they like, that's what they like.
Jim Rosenhaus is Hammy's sidekick there. Did you see the guy at the Yankees? I saw this on Twitter. Did you see him get hit by that foul ball?
I did. I didn't know that was possible at any stadium anymore.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean,
I only had, I think, 4 or 5 foul balls come in our booth during the time I was there, which was crazy. I mean,
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's about one a year. And but yeah, he was, I don't know if he just wasn't paying attention or if he didn't think it was coming all the way back, but he got clocked.
Oh man, the rusing he would have taken from his guys, I'm sure it was great.
That was classic.
That's classic. It's classic. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna bounce off here.
Yeah. Great to meet you.
Absolutely great meeting you.
I had fun.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll do it again sometime.
We definitely need to get Grilly on here. And like I said, when I set this up, Jeff Fry was coming on and Grilly. So I feel we would have had a bigger conversation. But Jeff Fry was a little bit before you, right, Mike?
Yes. Yep.
I think he was like towards the tail end of his career when Grilly came in, right? I believe too.
Me and Grilly came
2001.
in to Pittsburgh around the same time. So
Right, but
But yeah,
Grilly
probably-
started in Miami in what 2001, I believe.
yeah, he's that probably the time they got into is pretty close, or late 90s, early 2000s. I was more towards the later 2000s. So, all right, man. Well, hey, thank you guys.
Thanks,
God
guys.
bless. Good meeting you.
You
Adam,
too.
take care.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Mike. We'll talk, buddy.
Bye.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Hey. Oh, everyone bounced. Hey, well, that was our MLB show for the night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. Anyway, everybody have a good night. That was crazy.